All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Now with Summer Games Fest being over, we are going to be getting a lot more information on a lot of the games that were shown off. We've been going over that over the last number of days, and there is some more info here about some of the big games: Call of Duty, Dragon Age, Star Wars, Outlaws, all of those things we will talk about in this video. But before we do continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like daily gaming news content, and check out my link in the description to my Spotify where you can get the audio version of this. Now, one of the biggest games highlighted throughout these last number of days has been Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And obviously this is the first Call of Duty being released under Xbox, being owned first party Xbox studios, all of the Activision Blizzard studios, the game launching into Xbox Game Pass, which is a massive win for Game Pass subscribers. And you would probably be asking yourself, does this affect the development? Does it affect the game? From what we've seen so far with the information is that the game is parity across the board. You're going to get access to Call of Duty no matter what tier of Game Pass you're subscribed to, except for Xbox Game Pass Core. And everything is pointing that this is just overall a big win. And now we have some more information here from Treyarch discussing how being on Game Pass is impacting Black Ops 6's development, because apparently they didn't really know that it was going into Game Pass until recently, but probably soon when everyone else found out after they had their discussions and everything. But they say here, Microsoft announced at the end of May that Black Ops 6 will be the first Call of Duty title to launch on the subscription service day one, when it releases October 25th, 2024. And exactly when the Game Pass news was revealed to Black Ops 6 co-development studios Treyarch and Raven Software isn't clear, but it sounds like it was fairly recently. This is via the director of production at Treyarch, Yale Miller, saying, "We haven't known about Game Pass for that long. It was something that we were questioning whether or not it was going to happen." And they say, well, Miller sounded excited about the potential of the game reaching more players than previous series entries. He said its developers are keen to ensure that first-time players aren't overwhelmed by the variety of content that is available. I mean, there's a lot of content in these Call of Duty games that do get released. You have that Call of Duty hub and you can see everything. You can see like the older games launch into, you can see the newer games and the pre-orders that pop up, all the multiplayer zombies and campaign stuff. So it can kind of be an overwhelming UI if you've never jumped into Call of Duty and you're only expecting one experience when you do launch it. That just won't be the case. Now they continue on here and they say Game Pass has kind of made the need for this game to be highly accessible even more pressing. It says here, from the beginning, Black Ops 6, we definitely thought about how it's going to be a long time since players played a Black Ops game. So whether it's zombies, this big epic experience with huge quest lines and great story, there's a lot of players who just won't know, will have never played around a base zombie experience. So how can we teach people that with the multiplayer and foundational stuff on movement, there's a lot to show players. So we've been thinking from the beginning about how we bring players in. And of course, I mean, they announced the omnidirectional movement, which is going to be a huge change here from what you were doing previously. You can jump in any direction and fire at your opponent. So I mean, that's going to be pretty cool to see how people utilize that. I mean, you thought the dolphin dive was huge in previous games, it's going to be even bigger now with people jumping around, sliding and diving everywhere. Continues here and says, since we found out about Game Pass, we're relooking at all of those things. There's hopefully going to be more players than ever at least trying. We think we've made a cool game that's fun to play, that actually has a really big variety of experiences for lots of different players. So how can we make it clear to players how to get in, how to experience it, how to find the fun for them, and make it clear that, hey, this mode is about this and this is about this. And even in multiplayer, we have party modes and loads of other things that we do. So how can we be clear to players who've maybe not played Call of Duty before that here's the different offerings and here's ways that you can access them? So they're just thinking about more people jumping in and playing. I mean, Call of Duty is a game every year that gets like the most amount of players playing it. Probably tons of new players every time they put out a new release. I think it has a huge, broad range of appeal. And people will figure it out no matter how accessible really they make explaining how to do every single mode. Zombies would be the only thing out there that I would say, yeah, you're probably going to play a couple rounds of those before you do figure stuff out. You're going to meet people online and a lot of stuff will get explained to you. But it's going to be a huge game, a huge release. And to see how much more of an influx of players will come will be pretty crazy based off of how much it already sells. It was already a top pre-order on Steam. It's going to be a massive launch for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And we talked about this a couple of days ago about the game being 300 gigabytes to install. And apparently that is not actually going to be the case, which I think is a good thing, there is a correction to that claim. You have here from Call of Duty Update saying, correction, the estimated file size currently displayed on the Black Ops 6 pre-order pages does not represent the download size or disk footprint for Black Ops 6. The sizes shown include the full installation of Modern Warfare 2, 3, Warzone, and all relevant content packs, including all localized languages combined, which is not representative of a typical player install experience. Players will be able to download Black Ops 6 at launch without downloading the other Call of Duty titles or all of the language packs, and the actual estimation of Black Ops 6 file size will be available closer to launch. So 300 gigabytes sounded insane. It kind of didn't really make any sense for this one game to have that huge of a download, and obviously that isn't the case. It's going to be probably closer to what you would have with the previous releases of Call of Duty. With the size of the hard drives right now, I mean, even a terabyte is just not nearly enough to have a good slate of games on your consoles, especially if some of them are coming in at hundreds of gigabytes. But happy to hear that 300 gigabytes is not going to be the actual file size. Now, another game that a lot of people are going to be extremely excited for, myself included, that is Doom: The Dark Ages by id Software. They showed it off at the Xbox showcase, and it looks awesome. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there. You got the shield, you're flying around. Like, it just looks like it's going to be an awesome Doom experience. We have a bit more information here about the game itself and what you can expect from this Doom. There's going to be wider combat arenas, and I figured that was going to be the case based off of the gameplay they showed. It did look a little bit more open. You can dual wield in Doom: The Dark Ages. I mean, you saw the shield and you saw the weapons and everything. It was really cool. You'll be more of a tank this time. Strafing, you can strafe to aim. There'll be more demons than ever before, and they've gotten phenomenal results from ITech, which is a great system. And the Mecha Dragon and Atlan Mech to fight Titanic demons. So you saw the gameplay. I mean, you were flying around and taking out enemies and just going through these crazy areas. All of that, I think, is going to amass to just epic boss fights, Titanic demon fights. Like, that's going to be pretty crazy to see. I can't wait for Doom: The Dark Ages. And again, it's another game dropping into Game Pass day one, which is just absolutely insane to think about. Another game that was shown off at Summer Games Fest and at the Xbox Showcase was Mecha Break. This one looks pretty cool. It's like a mech Transformer style of multiplayer shooter. I think this one surprised a lot of people. It isn't coming out until 2025, but the closed beta is coming to Xbox Series X on August 2024. So this year, this August, you're going to be able to play the beta. The game, they say, features 3 distinct game modes: 6v6 battlefield, 3v3 arena, and up to 60 player PvE VP. That mode specifically will be unavailable for the upcoming beta, but I like that. I like when they have those PvE VP modes where if you're not the best at taking on other users, you can still find some sort of accomplishment when playing these online games. So make sure to go sign up for that beta if you do want to jump in and play it before the official release date. Now, Avowed, we've seen a lot about Avowed. That is coming out this year, and we kind of saw that release date leaked for November 12th, 2024. Game looks really good. We got a deeper dive into the game yesterday. There's going to be a third-person mode, which I think made a lot of people happy. But one of the questions you see popping up now is the studios, the future of the studios. Are these studios actually in fear that they are going to be closed down like Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin? And we got some info here. This is speaking to Eurogamer. Carrie Patel talked about this, saying, you have to be invested in what you're making and you have to believe in it. And I do feel a strong sense of security in being a part of Obsidian and, being a part of a studio that was a successful independent developer for almost 15 to 20 years. And I mean, basically saying here, she is not worried about Obsidian being closed down. I think a lot of that is blown out of proportion. I think a lot of that is doom and gloom. The second that those announcements of the studio closures came down, of course, it's sad. It's sad to see those studios go. But people were thinking, oh, who's next on the chopping block? Is it Ninja Theory? Is it Obsidian? If their games don't perform, and potentially that could happen, but I just think it's not going to. I think it's blown out of proportion. I think there's a lot of things that go on in the background from these business decisions that had to happen. And it just ended up unfortunate for some beloved studios and some beloved games. And they kind of bounce back here with the Xbox Showcase, but people are still going to be questioning here going forward. You'll still have those naysayers wondering if Avowed doesn't do well, what's going to be happening with that studio. Now, we got a bunch of other games to talk about some games I'm really excited for. We had Ubisoft Forward yesterday. I mean, Assassin's Creed Shadow looks phenomenal. Star Wars Outlaws looks really, really good, but they're actually getting some negative previews here for Star Wars Outlaws. And from what I understand, the reasoning this is happening is because they were really constricted to a small amount of the game, the more linear narrative style game. I've been hearing people say that it's kind of like Uncharted in the linear narrative style, but then there's also the whole open world, the ship flying and just exploring the different planets that will be in this game. To me, it looks really good. This is one I definitely want to play, but Ubisoft has responded to some of these negative previews, and here is what they say. And this comes specifically from Julian Garrity commenting on the previews and everything, the comparison to Uncharted. He says this: I mean, for me, it wasn't necessarily a reference point. It's such a wonderful game to be compared to, though. So if you're going to be compared to somebody, it might as well be the best in the industry. Naughty Dog, when they do, is absolutely brilliant. So I'll take it, but it wasn't the point of origin. And he says, I think coming into the show like this, while you're closing a game in terms of production, you have to make a lot of choices. And our producer was like, you get one demo for all of the shows that were going to go during the year. So Gamescom, Comic-Con, etc. And they're consumer plus journalist focused. So we had to choose something that was 20 minutes, bite-sized, lots of variety, lots of representative systems, but not the open world experience, because we're going to expose that during the studio tour in the preview event over here. So we'll spend a lot more time on those things. So this is an amuse-bouche. It's a starter rather than a main course for the game. I think we have a very compelling overall game, and just a part of it is represented here. So they decide to go with the smaller sections, the more narrative-driven sections, the probably combat focus and everything, rather than showing the entire open world of the game. I think this game is going to be very good. I am going to be playing it, and we do have some info on the actual size of it. They're saying it can be finished in about 30 hours, but if you want to complete everything, 50 to 60 hours. And I think that's a perfect size for an open world game like this. And people will be exploring the galaxy and stuff. And well, obviously we'll get the reviews and we'll see how it is before the game does come up, but I'm definitely interested in it. I'm going to play it and decide for myself. Now we have a bit more news here. Sumo Digital. Even with all these good news that we are getting throughout Summer Games Fest, there's still the negative news, which is the digital layoffs and everything that's going on there. Sumo Digital, they say here, just days after announcing a number of games during Summer Games Fest, British game developer Sumo Digital, the studio behind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, among others, has announced that layoffs are coming to the company. The studio is set to let go 15% of its workforce, or 160 people across 5 different countries. And according to the company, layoffs, they come due to recent difficulties and the studio not being immune to those. And the recent difficulties we've seen sweep across the entire industry. So unfortunate for Sumo Digital and the employees laid off there. We have the cover athlete for Madden 25. It is Christian McCaffrey. This is going to be an interesting year for Madden because college football game is back, and everyone who's played it so far has been saying it's really good. And if Madden is just a reskin, I wonder if that will pull people away from it. So we'll wait and see. I'm a big fan of the college football games from back in the day and a big fan of Madden from back in the day. But current day Madden, I'm not a fan of whatsoever. I'm hoping college football kind of brings these EA Sports football games back to prominence and makes Madden, even though it's the same company, everything pushes them to compete more if people just kind of get turned off if Madden isn't a nice upgrade. But that is your cover athlete. All right, jumping over here, Resident Evil Village has sold 10 million units. This is a press release put out by Capcom saying they've sold 10 million units globally since the game first launched in 2021. I really enjoyed Resident Evil Village. I enjoyed 7, and we're hearing about 9 that they are developing, which is in the same universe here as 7 and 8, but more open world, and they're just going to make it the biggest Resident Evil game to date. So that's pretty exciting, and we don't know when that is going to be launching, but it's being suggested it could be launching in 2025. I was kind of hoping that at one of these shows, particularly the Summer Games Fest show, maybe that would be a big announcement that we did get there, but obviously that wasn't the case. And finally, Dragon Age, the Veilguard hands-on previews have hit, and all of the previews are pretty glowing for this game. People are saying this is kind of return to form for BioWare. Here's what you need to know. There is some interesting stuff here. It is a standalone story. There's no knowledge needed for prior Dragon Age games. There are actually 2 modes here. There's going to be performance. There's going to be fidelity modes. And the Frostbite engine is targeting 60 FPS. There's create a character mode where there's a create a character section with different races and more. And apparently it's a really, really good create a character area. Gameplay is more action oriented. If you go watch the previews, you can see it's a very action RPG game. You can parry both range and melee attacks. The level 1 rogue ability is static shock and can be used via a weapon wheel or shortcut. The curated missions with alternate branching paths, mystery secrets, optional content, all in there. There's a hub area called the Lighthouse, similar to the Normandy. There's a party size of 3 in combat. Sophisticated animation canceling with dodge, counter, and parry. The ability wheel pauses combat and it actually allows you to issue commands for both you and your allies, which is very cool. You can have a lot of strategy with the combat in this game. It is seeming like elemental weaknesses, resistances, and combo effects. There are 7 total companions with complex backstories, problems, and motivations, and it releases PS5, Series X, and PC this fall. And it is not an open world game. They're saying this is a more linear Dragon Age game, really focused on the combat, the narrative, and stuff. And I think that's good. I mean, if there's good story in there, there's good interactions between the characters. That's what people, I think, really want from BioWare, specifically what they're writing. So we'll see how this game turns out. There's so many great games launching the end of this year now. Like, it's super stacked, especially as these previews are coming out and they're saying that the games are looking good. But on the video there, guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.